Attaché, listen to a staff member explain what members at the Jungle Training Center learned in the classroom in Manaus, Brazil, on March 28, 2012. DoD photo by U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Sunel Vega, Joint Staff. Despite its military nature and origins, much of the publicity around the Amazon Log 2017 exercises has centered on hypothetical benefits for civilians. In a press conference, General Racine Lima, the coordinator of Amazon Log 2017, argued that the Army would be focused principally on training to support peace operations and humanitarian aid. Lima mentioned that the upcoming exercises would also support the creation of the Tabatinga Integrated Multinational Logistics Base, which will serve as the provisional base during the military exercises. Amazon Log 2017 organizers took advantage of the military exercise to make infrastructure improvements that permit massive troop movements in remote Amazon locations. Smart energy grids, communication, water purification systems have been installed as well. For example, as part of these drill preparations, $15.8 million was invested in the microregion of Rio Alto Solimões, in the Brazilian state of Amazonas, to create docking terminals. Behind the humanitarian discourse, it appears that the organizers of Amazon Log 2017 chose the theater of operations for this multinational military exercise very strategically, to pursue natural resource extraction that threatens the territories of more than 300 indigenous communities. As pueblos of the Colombian Amazon, we do not have information about this exercise, said Alvaro Paranga Cruz, a communication advisor for the National Indigenous Organization of Colombia. But we do know that there are vested interests in all of the Amazon. Interests of petroleum, mining and carbon trading-based megaprojects. They come to deceive our pueblos with environmental conservation projects, and we do not know what this implies. For example, there are mining agencies that are conducting seismic studies in our territories without anyone's consent. According to a 2012 report from the Amazonian Network of Georeferenced Socio-Environmental Information, within the larger Amazon region, there are more than 327 plots of land designated for petroleum extraction, comprising 14% of the land in the Amazon. The report notes that the Amazon countries most affected by petroleum extraction are Peru, Colombia, Brazil and Ecuador, and further notes that the mining zones occupy, today, 15% of natural protected areas and 19% of indigenous territories in the Amazon. To the Colombian national government, the reality that the indigenous pueblos of Colombia live is completely unknown, said Paranga Cruz. There is a lie about the indigenous pueblos, but in practice, it does not work. For example, indigenous pueblos in the northern Amazon are demanding that these territories be titled as indigenous territory, and the government is not responding to these needs, but it is responding to the needs of megaprojects and smashing our rights. In February 2017, the Peruvian government announced the Parapetro reform based on the 3 pillars of new contracting models, incentive structures and a national hydrocarbon plan. This triple strategy seeks to attract investment in both the exploration and exploitation phases of petroleum developments, said Alvaro Rios, the managing partner of the consulting firm Gas Energy Latin America. The principal corporate investors are Shell, Chevron, Total and the China National Petroleum Corporation, noted Rios, but not everyone in Peru is seeing the benefits promised by the industry. Petroleum activity has not brought us development. On the contrary, our lands and territory are contaminated and our subsistence resources are as well, argue the Peruvian Quechua, Achuar and Quechua pueblos in an October 2017 press release made by Pueblo traditional leaders. These groups have indicated their intent to maintain resistance against oil-based extractivism in the region. Indigenous Territories in Danger exhibition of military employment material and preparatory activities for the military exercise in the Triple Border. September 26 to 28, 2017. Photo of East Bamatia. The Amazon region is composed of 7.4 million square kilometers and inhabited by 33 million people, including 385 indigenous pueblos of diverse ethnic backgrounds. Some of these groups have been living in isolation, meaning that for generations, they have maintained themselves deep within the Amazon forest without any outside contact. These areas have been considered inaccessible until now and are of great interest to the Brazilian military. The Indigenous Missionary Council (CIMI), from its Portuguese acronym, documented the murder of at least 118 indigenous persons in 2016 and 137 in 2015. According to data from a 2016 CIMI report, the greatest number of victims lived in the Brazilian Amazon state of Roraima, where there were more than 100 murders of primarily Yanomami indigenous persons between 2015 through the beginning of 2017. The governmental organization representing the rights of indigenous peoples in Brazil, the National Indian Foundation FUNAI, from its Portuguese acronym, has been a participant in the events of Amazon Lug 2017. This may seem odd, however, it is less odd when one considers that Frank Limburg Ribeiro de Freitas, the current head of FUNAI, previously served as the advisor on institutional relations in the Amazon Military Command. Truth Out reached out to FUNAI to clarify its role within Amazon Lug 2017 and the vulnerability of indigenous peoples in the region, but FUNAI did not respond to comment at the time of publication. The Brazilian Institute of Environment and Renewable Natural Resources and the Chico Mendes Institute for Biodiversity Conservation participated in the events of Amazon Lug 2017, serving as mediators between the government and corporations in order to foster the development and incursion of megaprojects in indigenous territories. Military agreement with the United States. Transportation of the Guarani armored tanks for the military exercise. Photo of Media. As Brazilian society is experiencing economic and political crises, the international military industry is taking advantage of the context of upheaval to test its equipment. Amazon Lug 2017 is a product of the arms industry and of powerful governments beyond Brazil, particularly the United States. In 2016, the Brazilian Army signed an exchange agreement with the United States military. This agreement involves cooperation between U.S. ground troops in joint maneuvers in 2017 and 2020. The two armies will end their activities in the United States at the Joint Readiness Training Center in Fort Polk, Louisiana. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Amorim de Andrade, head of the training division at the Jungle Warfare Training Center, affirmed that the U.S. military had begun to train in the Amazon. Beginning in 2016, there was a specific training focused exclusively on foreigners, the International Practice and Jungle Operations. Now this practice is called the International Seminar of Jungle Operations, and the United States and Peru have confirmed the participation of their military, said Amorim de Andrade. Although Brazil has not declared war with another country for the last 100 years, its military has participated in UN peacekeeping operations. The current modernization program of the Brazilian Army is geared toward non-conventional warfare, including operations against terrorism. Humanitarian aid in the South. Indigenous people from all over Brazil denounce invasions of agro-industrial companies on their ancestral lands. Photo Santiago Navarro F. In 2010, after 30 years without an established military agreement, the U.S. and Brazilian governments signed a military cooperation agreement, but the agreement did not authorize the use of bases or cession of rights of passage for U.S. personnel. However, since President Michel Temer took office in 2016, the U.S. has been given a wider berth in Brazil. The U.S. Southern Command received the green light for more activities in Brazilian territory with the Amazon Lug 2017 exchange agreements and military exercises. Before Temer took office, the groundwork was being laid for the Southern Command's presence in the region. In 2013, representatives from the U.S. Embassy and the regional government of Tacna, Peru, inaugurated the Regional Emergency Operations Center. The U.S. government provided $600,000 to support the center as part of the Department of Defense Southern Command Humanitarian Assistance Program, according to a press release from the U.S. Embassy in Peru. Representatives of indigenous groups from the 5 regions of Brazil protest against Bill PEC 215. Photo Santiago Navarro F. The U.S. Embassy noted that the center was just one of the 15 regional emergency operations centers projected for Peru. The 7 already finished centers are located in Arequipa, Lambayeque, Pucallpa, Junin, Tacna, Tums and San Martin. Construction is also planned in Puno, Cuzco, Huancavelica, La Libertad, Apurímac, Loreto, Ancash and Moquegua. In all, the U.S. will provide more than $20 million for these projects, all part of the Southern Command Humanitarian Assistance Program. These centers respond during times of natural disasters, according to the embassy's press release, and they allow the integration of a complete range of public services required during an emergency, services like medical and public health services, police, firefighters, and military personnel. However, member organizations of the Compañía Continental America Latina y el Caribe, which promotes regional peace, declared in a press release that behind these compounds financed by the Southern Command exists a process of regional occupation. On February 20, 2013, the Southern Command announced it would be opening another emergency operations center, this one in Santa Rosa del Aguirre, in the state of San Pedro, Paraguay. The announcement was made by the Director of Planning for the Southern Command, George Valens, after a meeting with Bernardino Soto Estigarribia, Paraguay's defense minister. These zones created by the Southern Command are in addition to the 8 military bases already installed in Colombia. For Marcelo Cerro, a Brazilian sociologist and specialist in international relations, the objective of Amazon Lug 2017 is not simply to train troops to lead during humanitarian crises, it is to insert the Brazilian armed forces in the strategic orbit of the U.S., which has already taken steps to cooperate with Peru and Colombia. Furthermore, according to Cerro, the participating armies, without a doubt, will put pressure on Venezuela, a regime that opposes U.S. interests in South America. Meanwhile, in Anna Esther opinion, this military exercise enforces the U.S. military's dominant presence in South America. It is Chevron's war, a war of coltan, of uranium, of thorium, of gas, and of gold, said. It is a U.S. war to bolster their material conditions and hegemonic position. Mobilization of indigenous peoples in Brazil, 2015. The government of Brazil has given priority in the political constitution to transnational corporations. Photo Santiago Navarro F.